So to begin this video, I just wanted to give a bit of context as to what piqued my interest in this phenomenon of UFO sightings in Cheshire, United Kingdom. Well, first of all, I was surfing the web looking for kind of any recent UFO related news, specifically UK centric news, and came across the website uk-ufo.co.uk. Now, what this site allows you to do, it allows you to view sightings by location, and the kind of way it filters location is by county. And in case you're maybe not from the UK, that's kind of how we denominate our regions. So we use counties. So you've got counties like Yorkshire, Greater Manchester, Nottinghamshire, for example. So obviously, I wanted to see what my home county, perhaps, if there were any sightings in my own home county of Cheshire. So I filtered on Cheshire and I realised the number of sightings in Cheshire was astronomically high compared to its population. And what this kind of well, this interests me because Cheshire's population is about 700,000, and it had a number of sightings equivalent to London's, a city of around 13 million people. So naturally, this kind of stuck out to me like a sore thumb, and basically, I wanted to do some more digging into this. Why could this be the case? I mean, first of all, you got to think of the rational explanations. So things like aircraft, astronomical events, perhaps shooting stars. But the only airport, there's no airports actually in Cheshire. The nearest one would be Manchester Airport. But I mean, I would like to think these days people can tell the difference between an aircraft going to Magaluf compared to aircraft from another star system. But you never know. Sometimes you have to wonder. And as well as no RAF bases in Cheshire. So it's almost of no real significance. So it's like, why are the sightings so high here? But what hit me was Cheshire is actually home to the Lovell Telescope. It's perhaps more commonly known as Jodrell Bank to the locals. Although those of you who are probably from a bit further afield would probably know it as the Bernard Lovell Telescope. And just to give you a bit of background of what that is, it's the largest radio telescope in the UK. Has a fantastic pedigree. I mean, it was the first piece of equipment to track that humans had landed an object on a celestial object. Of course, that being the Russian lunar program, and was instrumental in tracking spacecraft in the space race for both the Soviets and Americans, because the Soviets used to communicate with the staff there at Jodrell Bank to get the latest statuses on their craft that they'd sent up when their telescopes weren't able to communicate with them due to the Earth's tilt, for example. And as well, it's been instrumental in discovering quasars, research into black holes, and just a generally quite an impressive piece of kit with a pretty extensive history, and probably perhaps one of the most significant observation stations you could argue in human history. And this obviously has its home in Cheshire near a town called Macclesfield. So around that sort of area, if you do know it. Although if you're not from kind of around here, it's probably like you don't. But I mean, it kind of sparks interest because obviously maybe if there are UFOs, maybe they're interested in what this thing is. Because I mean, I think they're always going to perhaps take an interest in our efforts, our endeavour to look out and advance ourselves into the universe, and perhaps it's this telescope they've been taking an interest in. So I did a bit more digging into this, and I found a report from the Macclesfield UFO Society. And it was one Mrs. Marie Blackhill, when driving past the telescope in 1996, saw a cigar-shaped object hovering over the dish. And And now this woman was a member of the Red Cross. She was a reputable member of society. No reason to really lie about this. And she saw this craft hovering directly over the dish. And this is when I think she was driving one night back from a town called Knutsford to Macclesfield. And there's been other reports of such sightings. So, and Mr. Nick Hassel, what he saw a bit later on in 2003 was two red cylindrical objects circling the dish in a very, very tight formation. And kind of their movement and the way they managed to stay in sync with each other, it just wasn't a characteristic or wasn't within the capabilities of certainly any current human aircraft. And plus there was no sound to them. So obviously it couldn't have been a helicopter, that could have been circling tightly. And their manoeuvrability was just far too superior to any planes that we currently have at the moment. So I mean, this is just kind of food for thought, really. And I was just wondering whether it could be that extraterrestrials do take an interest in our equipment that relates to observation of the universe. They want to kind of see what we're doing. They want to see kind of how far advanced we are, and observe, maybe make estimates of where we currently are in perhaps getting out to space, making steps onto other planets, perhaps getting to Mars, and and it was just a kind of subject of interest to myself. So I thought I'd just bring this to light and make a quick video on it, really. So, I mean, could it be that Jodrell Bank is causing surge of UFO sightings in Cheshire, and that ETs are indeed taking an interest in this piece of kit? Or could it just be rural inbreeding? But anyway, just kidding. It's definitely food for thought, and so to everyone who's watched the video, big thanks, and hopefully this will be the first of many, and I'll get content on a regular basis, and plenty more to come. So thanks for your time, guys.